Hey everyone, Happy New Year! It's me, Danny, and today I wanted to talk with you a little bit about my recent trip I took to Florida. So for those of you who follow me over on Instagram, you probably saw that I had the luxury of doing some urban sketching over Christmas. I was in the Tampa area visiting family, and I took advantage of every free moment that I could to get out and do some urban sketching. So today I thought it would be cool to show you my urban sketches from Florida and to talk with you a little bit about my thought process behind each sketch. Okay, so this is my first sketch from Florida, or actually I should say from the US, because I did this on my way to Tampa via Chicago. So while I was en route to Chicago, I decided to do some sketching on the plane. And even though the lighting wasn't great and it was turbulent and I was super tired since my flight left at 8 a.m. It was still fun to just sketch on the plane and do something different. I do think I could have done a better job here with the clouds. It was just really difficult for me to see what I was doing, and at one point I thought I was maybe putting too much color on the page, but overall I think it's quite an interesting spread, and it's a bit different from the other things that I usually do. The sketch on my left is the first urban sketch I did in Florida, and that was on my second full morning. I was staying in a vacation home with my family near Tampa, or more specifically Indian Shores, and I went out the first morning and thought, I just have to sketch one of these beach houses. So even though it was a bit windy, I was still able to sketch outdoors and just had a light jacket on. And it was so much fun to be outside at the end of December and to do some urban sketching. One thing I did notice though is that it took me a bit of time to get used to the foliage. So I had to think a bit about how I was going to do sand dunes and really develop my own shorthand, since this isn't something or a type of landscape that I've really sketched a lot, especially here in Germany. But overall, I'm really happy with how this one turned out, especially the sky, and I think it's actually my favorite urban sketch from my trip to Florida. The second urban sketch that I did in Florida was from the Intracoastal Waterway. I was sitting in a park on the 23rd of December and was just sketching sort of these vacation homes across the waterway. And it was a beautiful day. I think it was probably close to 70 degrees, and I actually even got sunburned. But it was just really nice to be out and to sketch and to play around with the colors of the water and the sky, and just to enjoy the fresh air. So my next urban sketch from Florida was actually on Christmas Eve. We went to the beach, and I really had to think at first about how I was going to sketch this one, because beaches for me are quite a hard subject. They're very flat, there's not a lot going on. I know I could have just sketched people on the beach, but I wanted to get sort of the entire feeling of the beach. So I focused a little bit on the foliage and on the sort of rental apartments, and you also have the people here in white. But I decided to add some seashells that I picked up while I was at the beach, just to give it more of an interesting feel. And I think it turned out quite nicely. I also went back to the beach the day after Christmas and decided to sketch another vacation home. This one was actually really difficult because the sun was coming towards me and I was sort of sketching the shadows. It was also really difficult because I don't know if you can really see it here on the sketch, but this house had so many just weird angles, and trying to get those on paper in a 2D version was just a bit of a challenge. But I think overall this one also turned out really nicely. Now, I didn't just sketch at the beach all day. I also went to the Marina in St. Petersburg and did some sketching along the waterfront. Everyone else was out shopping, so I thought, great, this is a perfect chance for me to do some urban sketching. And I saw this red sailboat and thought to myself, I just had to sketch it. So I was sitting there and I have to say that once again the lighting was sort of working against me. So this was all in the shadows, and even the reflections were quite difficult to do. But I think given the circumstances, this sketch still turned out nicely. And my last urban sketch from Florida was actually done when I returned in Germany, but I brought some seashells back with me and thought it would be fun to sketch them and also to classify them. So I basically put them out on my desk and sketched them one by one, and really had a lot of fun playing around with the lettering and the shapes and sort of the white spaces on the shells. And I think if you compare these seashells to the ones I did just a few days before, you can definitely see some improvement. So yeah, I really like how this spread turned out, and it was just a really fun sketch to do. Alright, so those are my urban sketches from Florida. So as I said, it did take a little bit of time to get into the groove of things and just to figure out what color palette I was going to use, how I was going to draw things like palm trees, seashells, or even sand dunes. But at the end of the day, I really can't complain. Getting to do urban sketching at the end of December is really a luxury for me, and yeah, I'm really happy I had the chance to do so.